In 1999, Jeff Bezos sent an email to his entire company with the subject line, "Get big fast." 3 years later, Amazon was losing $1.4 billion per year and everyone thought he was insane. Here's what actually happened. November 2001, Amazon headquarters, Seattle. Jeff Bezos is sitting in a conference room with his executive team. The numbers on the screen are brutal. Amazon lost $567 million last quarter. The stock is down 95% from its peak. They're burning through $1 billion per year. At this rate, they have maybe 18 months before they run out of cash. CNBC is running a segment called Amazon Bomb. Business magazines have written Amazon's obituary. Competitors are circling. Walmart just launched their e-commerce site. Target's online. Best Buy's online. Everyone's betting that Amazon is going to die. Jeff's COO walks in with a printout. "Jeff, we need to talk about layoffs." Jeff doesn't look up from his laptop. He's reading customer emails. Hundreds of them, complaints about delivery times, about product selection, about prices. He's been reading these emails for 3 hours straight. "Did you hear me? We need to cut costs." Jeff finally looks up. His eyes are bloodshot. He hasn't slept well in weeks, but there's something in his expression, not panic, not fear, certainty. "We're not cutting costs," Jeff said. "We're investing more." Room goes silent. His CFO thinks he misheard. "Jeff, we're losing $1 billion a year. We have to cut." Jeff says, "We have to build. We're going to build a technology platform that makes us the most efficient retailer on earth. We're going to invest in fulfillment centers, in technology, in logistics, and we're going to keep prices low, lower than anyone." His team thinks he's lost his mind. The board is calling every day asking when they're going to turn a profit. Analysts are saying Amazon's business model doesn't work. Investors are fleeing, and Jeff Bezos is saying they need to spend more money. This is either the biggest mistake in e-commerce history or the most brilliant long-term bet ever made. And over the next 36 months, we're going to find out which one it is. I'm Alex Morgan, this is Behind the Billion, and today we're breaking down the most important decision Jeff Bezos ever made. Not starting Amazon, not going into e-commerce, but the decision in 2001 to go all in on infrastructure when everyone else was pulling back. Look, I spent the last 2 weeks reading everything I could find about this period in Amazon's history. Shareholder letters, all of them going back to 1997, SEC filing. Interviews with early Amazon employees, books written by people who were there, old magazine articles from 2000, 2001, 2002 when everyone thought Amazon was dying. And honestly, this might be the most fascinating business story I've ever researched because here's what nobody talks about. Amazon almost failed, not in some abstract way, like they were months away from bankruptcy multiple times. The decision that saved them is the exact opposite of what every business school, every consultant, every Wall Street analyst was telling Jeff to do, so let me take you back to the beginning. Because you need to understand what Amazon was before you can understand how close they came to losing everything. July 1994, Jeff Bezos is 30 years old. He's working at a hedge fund in New York called D.E. Shaw. It's one of the most prestigious quant funds on Wall Street. Jeff's a senior vice president. He's making serious money. He's on track to be a partner. Life is good, and then he reads a statistic that changes everything. Web usage is growing at 2,300% per year, 2,300%. He reads that number and his brain explodes. Nothing grows that fast, not even close. And if the web is growing that fast, that means something big is coming, something unprecedented. Jeff starts thinking. If the web is going to be huge, what's the best business to build on it? He makes a list of 20 products he could sell online, and he settles on books. Why books? Because there are 3 million books in print. No physical bookstore can carry even 1% of that. But an online bookstore could list every single one. He tells his boss he's leaving to start an internet bookstore. His boss thinks he's crazy. Jeff, this is a great idea for someone who doesn't already have a good job. But Jeff can't stop thinking about it. He does this exercise he calls the regret minimization framework. He imagines himself at 80 years old looking back on his life. Would he regret leaving a secure job to start an internet company? Maybe. Would he regret not doing it and always wondering what would have happened? Definitely, so he quits. His wife Mackenzie quits her job too. They drive cross-country from New York to Seattle. Jeff's writing the business plan in the passenger seat while Mackenzie drives. This is June 1994. They rent a house in Bellevue. Jeff sets up shop in the garage, buys some desks from Home Depot, gets a few computers. He's building the website himself, teaching himself how to code. It's just him and a couple of engineers he hired. July 16, 1995. Amazon.com goes live. No press release, no big announcement. Jeff just emails like 300 people and says, "Hey, I built this bookstore, check it out." First week, they get orders from all 50 states and 45 countries. Jeff is shocked. He didn't expect international orders at all. They're packing books in the garage, using a bell system. Every time they get an order, a bell rings. After the first week, they have to turn the bell off because it won't stop ringing. Now, here's what's important to understand. From day one, Jeff is obsessed with one thing, not profit, not market share, growth. He wants to grow as fast as humanly possible because he believes in this is crucial that whoever gets biggest fastest is going to win the internet. This is 1995. The internet is brand new. E-commerce doesn't really exist yet. Nobody knows the rule. But Jeff has this theory that the internet has network effects. The more customers you have, the more valuable you become. The more data you collect, the more you can negotiate with suppliers. The better your technology gets, so his entire strategy is, get big fast. I was reading Amazon's first shareholder letter from 1997, and Jeff literally says, "We will make bold investment decisions in light of long-term market leadership considerations rather than short-term profitability considerations or short-term Wall Street reactions." Think about that. He's telling investors, we're not going to care about profits. We're not going to care what Wall Street thinks. We're going to focus on getting big. And Wall Street loves it because it's 1997. The dot-com boom is starting. Internet stocks are going parabolic. Companies that have never made $1 of profit are worth billions. Amazon goes public in May 1997 at $18 per share. By December 1998, it's at $300 per share. Jeff Bezos is worth $10 billion. He's 34 years old, and Amazon is expanding like crazy. They started with books, then they add music, then DVDs, then electronics, then toys, then kitchen supplies, then tools, then everything. They're signing deals with Toys R Us, Target, Circuit City to sell their products on Amazon's platform. They're opening fulfillment centers across the country. They're hiring thousands of people, but here's the problem. They're not making money at all. They're growing revenue like crazy. 1998 revenue is $600 million, up from $150 million in 1997. But they're losing money on almost every sale. Because Jeff is keeping prices low, he's offering free shipping, he's investing everything back into growth. This is when things start getting wild. Amazon raises $1.25 billion in a bond offering. That's a massive amount of money, and Jeff immediately starts spending it. He's building warehouses, he's buying companies, he invests in other internet startups, he's expanding internationally, UK, Germany, Japan. Strategy is still get big fast, and by the end of 1999, Amazon has 17 million customer accounts. Revenue is $1.6 billion. Stock is at $400 per share. Jeff is on the cover of Time magazine as Person of the Year. The headline is "E-commerce is changing the way the world shops. Everything looks amazing. Jeff Bezos is a genius. Amazon is the future." And then the bubble bursts March 2000. Nasdaq peaks at 5,048, then it starts falling. Slowly at first, then faster. Investors suddenly realize that most internet companies have no path to profitability. They're burning cash with no end in sight, and one by one they start dying. Pets.com goes bankrupt. Webving goes bankrupt. eToys goes bankrupt. Hundreds of .com companies just disappear. And Wall Street starts asking a very uncomfortable question. Is Amazon next? Let me paint you a picture of how bad it gets. Amazon's revenue grows to $2.7 billion. But they lose $1.4 billion that year, $1.4 billion in losses. Their stock crashes from $400 to $15. Jeff Bezos personally loses $10 billion of net worth in 1 year. The business press turns on him. Barron's publishes a cover story titled "Amazon Bomb." Fortune magazine runs an article asking if Amazon will even exist in 5 years. Analysts are saying the business model doesn't work, that you can't make money selling stuff online, that the shipping costs are too high, that competition is going to crush them. Lehman Brothers publishes a research report saying Amazon's bonds are junk and the company might go bankrupt. And here's the really scary part. They're running out of cash. By the end of 2000, Amazon has about $1 billion in cash. They're burning through $130 million per quarter. That means they have maybe 2 years of runway, maybe less if things get worse. Jeff's board is freaking out. Investors are calling every day. Employees are worried about their jobs. The stock price is in free fall. And everyone, literally everyone, is telling Jeff the same thing. You need to cut costs. You need to focus on profitability. You need to stop investing and start making money. And this is where the story gets interesting, because Jeff does the opposite. January 2001. Jeff writes his annual shareholder letter, and instead of announcing layoffs or cost cuts, he doubles down. He says Amazon is going to focus on 3 things: customer experience, operational excellence, and cash flow. Wait, back up. Cash flow, not profit. This is important. See, Jeff understands something that most people don't. Profit is an accounting concept. You can manipulate it with depreciation, amortization, all sorts of accounting tricks, but cash flow is real. Cash flow is actual money coming in versus money going out. And Jeff realizes that if Amazon can generate positive free cash flow, meaning they generate more cash than they spend, they can survive. They don't need to be profitable on paper. They just need to be cash flow positive. So that's the new goal. Get to positive free cash flow. And to do that, Jeff makes a series of decisions that look absolutely insane to outsiders. First, he cuts 1,300 jobs. About 15% of the company. This is painful, really painful, but necessary. They've been hearing too fast. They've got bloat, so he cuts. But, and this is crucial, he doesn't cut investments in technology and infrastructure. In fact, he increases them. While he's laying people off, he's also spending hundreds of millions building new fulfillment centers. He's investing in software and logistics systems. In algorithms, his CFO is pulling his hair out. Jeff, we're hemorrhaging money and you want to build more warehouses. Jeff's response is incredible. He says, our job is to create operating leverage. Every dollar we invest in infrastructure should allow us to handle way more volume without increasing costs proportionally. We explain this because it's brilliant. Most retail companies, when they grow, their costs grow proportionally. If they double sales, costs double too. Jeff is betting that if Amazon builds the right infrastructure, automated warehouses, sophisticated logistics software, smart algorithms, they can grow sales without growing costs at the same rate. That's operating leverage. It's a huge bet. And if it doesn't work, Amazon goes bankrupt. 2001 continues. The situation gets worse before it gets better. More .coms die. The economy slides into recession. 9/11 happens. Consumer spending drops. Amazon's sales growth slows. The stock falls to $6. It was $418 months earlier. Employees are sending out resumes. Board members are having emergency meetings. There are rumors that Walmart is going to acquire Amazon for pennies on the dollar. Jeff is flying around the country meeting with investors, begging them not to bail. He's going on CNBC defending his strategy. He's writing long essays explaining why Amazon's going to survive. Through all of this, he keeps investing. He keeps building. He keeps focused on the long term. November 2001. This is the moment I described at the beginning. The meeting where Jeff tells his team they're going to invest more, not less. And here's what he's thinking. Jeff realizes that most of Amazon's competitors are pulling back. They're cutting costs. They're getting conservative. They're worried about survival. And that means this is the perfect time for Amazon to attack, to grab market share. Out-invest everyone. It's like what Warren Buffett says. Be greedy when others are fearful. Everyone else is fearful, so Jeff is going to be greedy, but he needs to prove it can work. He needs to show that the infrastructure investments are paying off. Q4 2001. Holiday season, this is make or break for Amazon. They need to crush it. They need to show they can handle massive volume efficiently. That all those fulfillment centers and logistics systems actually work. Jeff's team is terrified. What if the systems break? What if they can't deliver on time? What if this is the quarter that proves the skeptics right? The quarter happens, and it's perfect. Amazon ships millions of packages on time efficiently. The systems work, the warehouses work, the algorithms work. And for the first time ever, Amazon generates positive free cash flow. They make $19 million in cash flow that quarter. $19 million doesn't sound like much. But it's proof of concept. It proves Jeff's strategy is working, that operating leverage is real. Q1 2002, positive free cash flow. Q2 2002, positive free cash flow. Jeff is on CNBC with Jim Cramer, and Jim asks him, when are you going to be profitable? And Jeff says, we're already cash flow positive. That's what matters. By the end of 2002, Amazon generates $174 million in free cash flow for the year. The stock starts recovering, slowly at first, then faster. Investors realize Amazon isn't going bankrupt. They're actually building something real. Amazon reports its first ever profitable year, $35 million in profit. Not much, but it's proof they can do it. And more importantly, they generate $346 million in free cash flow. From that point on, it's over. Amazon's won. They've built infrastructure that nobody else has. They've got scale nobody else has. They've got data nobody else has. And now they're going to use all of that to dominate retail. But wait, it gets crazier, because while Jeff is fighting for Amazon's survival, he's also working on something else. Something that has nothing to do with retail. Something that's going to become bigger than the retail business. Let me take you inside Amazon in the early 2000s. 2002, 2003. Amazon's technology team is constantly building new tools, software to manage inventory, software to track shipments, software to process payments, software for everything, and Jeff notices something. They're rebuilding the same basic infrastructure over and over. Every team needs database storage. Every team needs computing power. Every team needs servers. They're all building it from scratch each time. Jeff calls a meeting with his top engineers, and he says, what if we built a standardized set of infrastructure services, storage, computing, databases, and any team could just use them instead of building their own? Engineers love this idea. It'll make development way faster. They start building these internal services, and they're great. They work really well. And someone in nobody's quite sure who says, what if we offered these services to outside developers? Like, what if other companies could rent Amazon's infrastructure? This is a wild idea. Amazon is a retail company. Why would they sell infrastructure to other companies? But Jeff is intrigued, because he realizes something. Amazon has spent hundreds of millions building world-class infrastructure. They've got massive server farms, sophisticated software, expert engineers. And most of that capacity is sitting idle. It only gets used during peak shopping times. What if they could monetize that excess capacity? Amazon launches AWS, Amazon Web Services. It's basically renting out Amazon's computing infrastructure to other companies. You can spin up a server in minutes, pay by the hour, scale up or down instantly. It's revolutionary. Nobody understands it at first. Analysts are confused. Why is Amazon getting into enterprise software? But developers love it. Startups love it. Instead of buying servers and setting up data centers, they can just use AWS. It's faster, cheaper, better, and it grows fast. By 2010, AWS is doing over $1 billion in revenue. By 2015, $10 billion today. AWS does $90 billion per year and generates more profit than the entire retail business. Think about that. The thing that saves Amazon long-term isn't retail, it's cloud computing, a business they stumbled into because they'd overinvested in infrastructure during the dot-com crash. Jeff had listened to everyone in 2001 and cut infrastructure spending. AWS never happens. Amazon might have survived, but they wouldn't have become what they are today. That's the power of long-term thinking. That's the power of investing through a crisis. Okay, so let me fast forward and show you how this framework plays out over and over at Amazon. Jeff launches the Kindle, an e-reader for digital books. Everyone thinks it's going to fail. Nobody wants to read books on a screen. Amazon loses money on every Kindle they sell for the first 3 years, but Jeff doesn't care. He's building the digital books ecosystem. And now, Kindle is a multi-billion-dollar business. Amazon builds their first sortation center. Everyone asks why they need to handle their own shipping. That's what UPS and FedEx are for. But Jeff knows if Amazon controls the entire logistics chain, they can be faster and cheaper than anyone. Now Amazon delivers more packages than FedEx. Amazon invests billions in video content for Prime Video. Analysts say it's a waste of money. You're a retailer, not a media company. But Jeff knows that Prime Video keeps people subscribed to Prime, and Prime members spend twice as much on Amazon as non-members. Now Prime has 200 million subscribers. Amazon buys Whole Foods for $13.7 billion. Everyone says it's too expensive and doesn't make sense. Why is an online company buying grocery stores? But Jeff knows that grocery is the last big category Amazon hasn't cracked, and physical stores give them distribution points for deliveries. Now grocery is one of Amazon's fastest growing categories. Every single time, the pattern is the same. Jeff makes a big investment. Everyone says it's stupid. It loses money for years, then it becomes massive. Why does this work? Because Jeff is willing to wait. He's willing to lose money for 5, 7, 10 years if he believes the long-term opportunity is big enough. was reading through all of Jeff's shareholder letters. There are 23 of them, one for each year from 1997 to 2019 when he was CEO, and the message is identical every single year. We're focused on the long term. We're willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time. We will make bold investment. We will be patient. He literally says the same thing every year for 23 years. And every year Wall Street is surprised when Amazon makes another big bet. But here's what I find fascinating. Jeff didn't invent the strategy. He copied it from Walmart 1990s. Before starting Amazon, Jeff studied Sam Walton obsessively. Read every interview, every biography, and he learned that Walmart's strategy was to grow as fast as possible while keeping prices low and investing in efficiency. Walmart didn't focus on profits early on. They focused on building infrastructure, stores, distribution centers, logistics system. And then once they had scaled, the profits came automatically. Jeff literally took the Walmart playbook and applied it to the internet. Get big fast, invest in infrastructure, optimize operations, keep prices low, be patient. The genius is that he actually followed through. Most CEOs say they're long-term focused, but when the stock drops or investors complain or analysts downgrade them, they panic. They cut investment. They focus on short-term results. Jeff never did. Even when Amazon's stock fell 95%, even when people were calling for his head, even when his own board was worried, he stuck to the strategy, and there's a structural reason he could do this. Jeff controlled enough voting stock that nobody could fire him. After the IPO, Jeff owned about 20% of Amazon, but he structured it so he had more voting power. Nobody could remove him as CEO, so he could ignore short-term pressure. This is really important. Most public company CEOs can't do what Jeff did because they don't have that protection. If their stock crashes, they get fired. So they make short-term decisions to protect their jobs. Jeff didn't have that problem. He could play the long game because his position was secure. Now I want to talk about the culture Jeff built. Because the long-term strategy only works if your entire organization thinks long-term. Jeff created these things called leadership principles. There are 16 of them now. Every Amazon employee has to memorize them. They're used in hearing and performance reviews and decision-making, everything, and they're fascinating. Let me give you a few. Customer obsession. Leaders start with the customer and work backwards. Invent and simplify. Leaders expect and require innovation and invention from their teams. Think big. Thinking small is a self-fulfilling prophecy. For action, speed matters in business. Frugality. Accomplish more with less. These aren't just slogans. Amazon actually operates this way. The frugality one is insane. For years, Amazon employees had to make their desks out of doors. Literal doors from Home Depot with legs attached, because doors were cheaper than desks. Jeff made everyone do it, including himself, to ingrain frugality into the culture. Customer obsession one is even more interesting. Every meeting at Amazon starts with someone reading customer emails. Actual emails from real customers, complaints, questions, feedback. Jeff started this tradition and it still happens today. Why? Because Jeff believes that if you stay obsessed with customers, everything else takes care of itself. You don't need to obsess over competitors. You don't need to obsess over Wall Street. Just make customers happy and the business will work. And here's the enforcement mechanism. Jeff has this thing called the question mark email. Jeff sees something he doesn't like, customer complaint, a bad review, a process that's broken, he'll forward it to the responsible executive with nothing but a question mark in the email. And when you get a question mark email from Jeff, you have a few hours to figure out what went wrong and send him a detailed explanation. These emails are legendary inside Amazon. People are terrified of them, but they work. They keep the entire organization focused on what matters. Customer experience, operational excellence, long-term thinking. Okay, so let's talk about where Amazon is today. Because the results of Jeff's strategy are almost unbelievable. Amazon's market cap, $2 trillion annual revenue, $575 billion. That's bigger than the GDP of most countries. AWS alone, $90 billion in revenue, $24 billion in operating profit. It's one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Amazon's fulfillment network, over 400 million square feet of warehouse space. They've got thousands of fulfillment centers, sortation centers, delivery stations across the globe. It's the largest logistics operation on Earth. Amazon Prime, 200+ million members paying $139 per year. That's $28 billion in guaranteed annual revenue just from subscriptions. Amazon's advertising business, $40 billion per year. Bigger than YouTube's ad revenue, and here's what's crazy. All of this came from that decision in 2001. The decision to invest when everyone else was cutting. The decision to focus on infrastructure and cash flow instead of short-term profits. If Jeff had panicked, if he'd listened to the analysts, if he'd cut infrastructure spending and focused on profitability, Amazon would still exist, but it would be a much smaller company. Maybe a $100 billion company instead of $2 trillion. The difference between those outcomes is the 2001 decision. That's a $1.9 trillion decision now. Let me connect this to what's happening right now. Because this framework is playing out in real time with today's tech companies. Look at what's happening with AI companies. OpenAI is losing billions of dollars training models. Anthropic is burning cash. Google's spending tens of billions on AI infrastructure. Meta's spending $30 billion per year on their metaverse bet. Investors are freaking out. When are these companies going to make money on AI? But the founders are saying the same thing Jeff said in 2001. We're investing for the long term. This infrastructure will pay off in the future. Who's going to be right? I don't know. But I know that the winners will be the companies that invest the most during this uncertain period. Just like Amazon invested during the dot-com crash, look at Elon with Tesla and SpaceX, same framework. Loses money for years. Invests everything in infrastructure, factories, rockets, satellites. Everyone says he's crazy. Then suddenly Tesla's worth $800 billion and SpaceX is worth $150 billion. Look at Netflix. Spent billions on content when everyone said they should slow down. Now they've got 250 million subscribers and they're dominating streaming. The pattern repeats. The companies that win big are the ones that invest during uncertainty, that ignore short-term criticism, that stay focused on a long-term vision. And this is important, not every big bet works. For every Amazon, there are 10 companies that invested big and failed. who have invested billions in grocery delivery infrastructure in 1999, went bankrupt in 2001. Dubai raised $1.75 billion to make short-form video content. Died in 6 months, so what's the difference? How do you know if you're making a smart long-term investment versus just burning money? I think there are 3 criteria. 1, you have a clear competitive advantage that gets stronger with scale. Amazon's advantage was their infrastructure and data. The more they grew, the better their infrastructure got, and the more data they collected. That's a real advantage. Ven's advantage was, what being first, that's not an advantage. 2, can you measure whether it's working? Jeff tracked free cash flow. He tracked operational metrics. He knew his fulfillment centers were getting more efficient every quarter. He had data proving the strategy was working even if profits weren't there yet. A lot of companies make big bets without any way to measure if they're on the right track. 3, you have the financial runway to survive until it pays off. Amazon had enough cash and access to capital to survive the dark years. A lot of companies run out of money before their investments pay off. If you've got all 3, a scalable advantage, measurable progress, and financial runway, then aggressive investment makes sense. If you're missing any of those, you're probably just gambling. Okay, let me start wrapping this up, because there's one more part of Jeff's story that's important. Jeff steps down as CEO. He's been CEO for 27 years. He hands the job to Andy Jassy, the guy who built AWS, and Jeff becomes executive chairman, focused on long-term projects. Blue Origin, his space company, the Washington Post, which he bought in 2013, climate initiatives, other stuff. How did he step down? I think he accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish at Amazon. He proved his strategy worked. He built it into one of the biggest companies in history, and he wanted to focus on other things. But here's what I find interesting. Even in stepping down, Jeff is following his own framework. He could have stayed CEO forever, but he knows that long-term thinking means succession planning, means setting Amazon up to thrive after he's gone. Andy Jassy has been CEO for 3 years now, and he's running the exact same playbook. Big investment, long-term focus, ignoring short-term criticism. Amazon's still growing, still innovating, still dominating. That's the ultimate proof the strategy works. It's not dependent on Jeff's genius. It's a repeatable framework that anyone can follow. So what can we learn from all of this? What are the actual takeaways? First, long-term thinking is a competitive advantage. Most companies can't do it because of short-term pressure. If you can ignore quarterly earnings and focus on 5-year outcomes, you have a massive edge. Second, invest through downturns. When everyone else is cutting, that's when you should be investing. It's counterintuitive, it's scary, but that's when you can grab market share and build infrastructure while it's cheap. Third, cash flow matters more than profit. Amazon wasn't profitable for years, but they were generating cash. Cash is what keeps you alive. Profit is an accounting concept. Fourth, customer obsession compounds. If you make customers happy, they come back, they spend more, they tell their friend. It's a flywheel that accelerates over time. Fifth, infrastructure is a moat. If you can build infrastructure that's expensive and difficult to replicate, you have a real competitive advantage. Amazon's fulfillment network, AWS's data centers, these took billions of dollars and years to build. Nobody can just copy them. Sixth, be willing to be misunderstood. Jeff said this explicitly. We are willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time. Most people need validation, need to be seen as smart. Jeff didn't care. He knew the strategy would work eventually. Seventh, control matters. Jeff could execute his strategy because he controlled the company. If you're building something long-term, you need enough control that nobody can force you to make short-term decisions. And finally, big bets are how you win big. Amazon didn't become a $2 trillion company by making safe incremental moves. They bet the company multiple times. AWS, Kindle, Prime Video, Whole Foods. Most of those bets could have failed, but the ones that worked paid off massively. That's the framework. That's how Jeff Bezos built Amazon. Now look, I want to be clear about something. Jeff Bezos is controversial. Amazon has been criticized for worker conditions, for anti-competitive practices, for its environmental impact. These are legitimate concerns. But from purely a business strategy perspective, what Jeff did at Amazon is one of the greatest executions in history. The ability to stick to a long-term vision while everyone's telling you you're wrong. The ability to keep investing when you're losing billions. The ability to build multiple multi-billion-dollar businesses under one umbrella. It's exceptional. Whether you like Jeff or not, whether you shop on Amazon or not, the strategy is worth studying. Because here's the thing, this framework works. We've seen it work at Amazon, at Walmart before that, at Costco, at Netflix, at Tesla, at every company that's achieved massive sustained success. The hard part isn't knowing the framework. The hard part is having the conviction to follow it when everything looks dark, when your stock is down 95%, when analysts are writing obituaries. When your own board is questioning you, that's when you find out who actually believes in long-term thinking and who's just saying it. Jeff believed it. And he built one of the most valuable companies in human history because of it. So that's the story. That's how Jeff Bezos went from nearly bankrupt in 2001 to building a $2 trillion empire. That's how Get Big Fast almost destroyed Amazon, then saved it. That's how one email, one strategy, one decision to invest when everyone else was cutting changed everything. The exile didn't make Jeff like it did for Steve Jobs, but the crisis did. 2001 forged Amazon into what it is today. And the decision Jeff made in that moment to invest, to build, to stay focused on the long term, that decision is worth $2 trillion. Alright, so that's the deep dive on Jeff Bezos and Amazon's near-death experience. That's how close we came to Amazon not existing. 6 quarters away from bankruptcy, and the decision to invest more, not less, saved everything. Look, if this kind of research is valuable to you, if you want to understand how these companies were actually built, the real decisions, the real crises, not the sanitized PR version, hit that subscribe button. I release new episodes every single day, deep dives into the strategies, the frameworks, the specific decisions that built billion-dollar companies. Tomorrow, another founder, another crisis, another decision that changed everything. I'm Alex Morgan, thanks for listening to Behind the Billion.